Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This video I'll be making my Premier League predictions for the season. I actually did a lot of research on this for some teams, so I probably won't get a majority of these right, but this is what I believe will happen this year, and I don't know, at the end of the year we'll see how it goes. So in 20th I have Cardiff City. I don't think they've really done enough to stay up. Neil Warnock did a really good job of getting them up. I think that's who their manager is. But during the transfer window, all they did was add a bunch of championship level players. They signed Bobby Reid from Bristol City, I believe. He scored 17 goals, I believe, last year. Bobby Reid scored 19 goals last year in the championship. It was a really good tally, but 19 goals in the championship probably will translate to about, I say he scores maybe 7 goals this year, just because of the level or the step you have to take from the championship to the Premier League. He could prove me wrong. He could go out and score 15 and Cardiff could finish 12th. But looking at their squad, they don't have the quality to stay up. At 19th, we have Huddersfield. Yes, they did an amazing job staying up last year. They didn't really add anybody in this transfer window. They brought back Terence Kongolo, who, was okay. And they brought back Lossell, but those are players they had last year. They didn't really add anybody new. David Wagner, he pulled out a miracle last year, keeping them up. Aaron Moy did pretty much all he could, but I don't think he can do it again by himself this year. So I feel like Huddersfield will finish 19th. I feel like they'll be close to 17th, like the 18, 19, 17. I don't know why I went that order. But 17, 18, 19 will be within about 2 points the whole year. So it's really a toss-up for them between 19th and 16th, but I think they lack the quality to stay up in the Premier League next year. In 18th, we have Bournemouth. They lost Benik Afobe, Max Gradel, and Lewis Grabban, who also wasn't on their team last year, but he probably could have been a good addition. They still do have Callum Wilson, Lewis Cook, Asmir Begovic, Nathan Ake. They do still have quality in their team, but I think they're going to struggle this year with no real big additions to their team like all the other sides are making. I think if Eddie Howe can pull this off, I think he deserves the England job, because let's be honest, England didn't have the best World Cup despite making it to the semifinal. So I think Bournemouth will finish 18th in the Premier League and just get into the relegation zone and be back in the championship. Now in 17th, I have Brighton. They did make great additions this season with Florian Andone, Basuma, and Jahan, but it's the Iranian guy from the Eredivisie who actually who had a really good season last year, leading the Eredivisie in goals. But what they really needed to improve was their defense, in my opinion. Shiletto, he did a good job on the right last year. Shane Duffy and Lewis Dunk, I think, were their center backs, and I'm pretty sure Shane Duffy scored about 5 own goals last year, so scoring on your own team 5 times really isn't that great of an idea, so I really think they could have improved the center back role. But other than that, I do think they have enough quality to stay up, but barely. I put them at 17th. At number 16, I have Watford. So basically all they did was add Ben Foster, who actually I think is a really good goalie. He actually played for Watford earlier on in his career. And with the quality they have up front with Andre Gray and Troy Deeney, I think they can do it. They also added Gerard Deulofeu on a permanent deal, so they'll have him, who I thought was a really good signing for them at, 12 million? I think they'll stay up for a while, but if they don't, I don't see them coming back to the Premier League for a while. At 15, I have Southampton because I thought they actually brought in a lot of good signings this year, especially the ones of Elias Yunusi, that guy from FC Basel, and Vestergaard from Borussia Mönchengladbach. They really did improve the areas of the squad they needed. They needed another attacker because they kind of lacked the goals last year, and I think Elias Yunusi, I think he will provide that, especially creating chances along that wing, maybe pumping balls into Charlie Austin and Shane Long. The one issue here I see, or the one big issue here, is them still having Mark Hughes in charge. I don't think that's probably a good idea. They also lost a lot of first team players. They lost Dusan Tadic to Ajax. I think they probably should have kept him. I think he created a lot of chances for them last year. They also lost Boufal. I believe they loaned him out for God knows why. And I think actually bringing Jordy Clasie back after the year he had at Club Brugge, I believe is where he was, I think that would have been a good idea just because of the season he had. I mean, he made it into their team of the season, so why wouldn't you want to try to bring that back into the club? So at 14th, I have Newcastle United. Like I said, at 14th, I have Newcastle United. With Benitez still being the best manager at the worst club, I believe he will steer them clear of relegation. Bringing back Kennedy was great. I think he can provide a lot of, he'll be a big threat on the left mid. But I also think they need to stop loaning him in. I think they need to make that deal permanent if they're serious about keeping him. They also brought in Ki Seung-hyun from Swansea, who actually is a very good midfielder, so I think him partnered with Jonjo Shelvey will be a very good box-to-box pairing this year. And other than that, they probably should have added more to the attack than what they had, but you know Newcastle's owners, they don't like to spend money, so looks like it's going to be up to Dwight Gale to provide most of the goals this year. I don't know if they made the Islam Slimani deal permanent or not. I don't think they did. But if they did, maybe try to get him actually worked into the system, which it didn't look like he was last year. So what they really need to do is improve the attack, but with Benitez at the helm, I mean, he just finds a way to get points, so I see them staying up comfortably this year. In 13th place, I have Crystal Palace. Now, they really didn't sign anybody big. I mean, they kept their best player, Wilfried Zaha, but even that looks like he'll probably leave, which would be a huge loss to them, especially this late in the transfer window. They also lost Johan Cabaye to Al Nassr. I don't know what league that's in. I think it's probably the Saudi Arabian league. Maybe the Qatari, I don't know. But what they really need is a creative midfielder that can help Benteke and Zaha up front. Milivojevic, I believe is his name. He scored 8 goals last year and seven of them were penalties. But I don't think he can sustain doing all that himself again this year. I mean, I think he created around 50 chances last year, which is good, but they really do need somebody who will be creating them 80 plus chances, especially with the attacking options they have up front, because we know Benteke and Zaha can put the ball in the back of the net. At 12th, I have Burnley. I mean, yes, they're in Europe this year, which is something completely new to them. And if they get past Aberdeen and can get 2 of the group stages of the Europa League, I actually think that might hurt their chances in the Premier League because their players aren't used to playing that many games, and Burnley don't have the quality just to rotate their squad like some of the top clubs do between the Premier League and the Champions League. But a big factor to this is they haven't signed anybody yet, and they've also lost Scott Arfield, and I think that's his name, and Dean Marney, who, I mean, I don't think Dean played all that much, but they lost 2 first team midfielders and haven't tried to replace them. The upside to this is they kept a lot of their starters. So they kept Robbie Brady, they kept Sam Vokes, they kept Chris Wood, that's what it was. They also kept him up front. And if Brady can create the chances this year, I do believe that they will finish above 12th. But based on that, I don't think they will. But based on their current squad, I don't think they will. And also to add to that, Pope actually just got injured in their game against Aberdeen and looks to be out for a while. So I don't know if Tom Heaton's still at the club, but if he can step up and be like, if he's still healthy is kind of what I meant. If he can step up, that'd be great, but I don't know who their backup goalie is, and I don't think he will be able to do what Pope did last year. So this might be a season for Burnley, or a struggle bus season for Burnley. In 11th, I have Fulham. I do believe they can finish above 11th, but I don't know how their game will adjust to the Premier League. They added some top quality players like Jean-Michel Seri, who was supposed to go to Barcelona last year. They added Maxime Le Marchand from Nice as well, and they also added Andre Schürrle. These are like moves that top Premier League clubs would be making, like top 6 teams. They also made the Mitrovic deal permanent from Newcastle, which I believe was a great move from them. There is a couple issues though. They haven't re-signed a goalie yet, seeing as they lost their starting goalie David Button to Brighton. They also lost Ryan Fredericks on a free to West Ham, which I think was a mistake because of how good he was last year. But their attack with Ryan Sessegnon and Mitrovic and Andre Schürrle up top, that's a quality top 8 attack. So if they can piece it together, I can see them challenging for Europe this year. But if not, I think, and if those signings can't get the ball in the back of the net, I see them probably around 15th, just because in this league, if you don't score, games aren't all going to end 0-0. So if you can't put the ball in the back of the net, you're going to probably lose the game. So I think they do have enough quality to do it, though. So that's why I can see them challenging for Europe. But as we haven't seen how their game will adjust to the Premier League, I put them in 11th. In 10th, I have Wolves, who have become Portugal FC, as they have signed João Moutinho and Rui Patricio and Paulo Alves from Liverpool, who I didn't even know we had. They also signed Raul Jimenez, who is a great addition. I think pretty much every move that Wolves have made this summer has been quality. Their big loss is Barry Douglas, one of their center backs, but I mean, you see the quality they've brought in. I do believe that they will be a top 10 side. But the only issue with all these new signings is it might mess up team cohesion, which, I mean, Wolves are a rich club, so they can afford to bring all these players in. But if it doesn't work and they get relegated this year, they might see bankruptcy just because of how much money they've put into staying up. But I don't see that being an issue. If they do make one more defensive upgrade, I do believe they will be in Europe next year. But if not, I do see them competing for the FA Cup and stuff like that, because I do think Wolves are that good. In 9th, I have Everton. They've only made one signing, and they signed Richarlison for $50 million. This dude hasn't scored a goal since November. But the reason I'm kind of optimistic on that deal is that he played his best football under Marco Silva. And guess who the new manager is of Everton? Marco Silva. I do believe he will get the best out of him. The only issue is they have lost a lot of players, like first team players, but they didn't play last year. So they lost David Klaassen, who actually scored like hours after his move. I don't know how he was already in a Werder Bremen shirt, but that happened. They also lost Wayne Rooney to DC United, and they lost Funes Mori to Villarreal. But I mean, they do still have Ashley Williams and Michael Keane back there, so I don't see that being an issue. I do feel like their defense is getting older, so they do need to go out and get a left back to help out Leighton Baines, and they do need to get another center back because I don't think Ashley Williams can keep it up for a whole year. But if they do get that, I can see them comfortably getting top 10. In 8th place, I have Leicester City. Now, they've added a lot of good players. They added Ricardo Pereira, the right back from Porto. They've added Johnny Evans for $3 million after City were trying to sign him for $30 million. They've added James Maddison, the attacking mid from Norwich, and they added Danny Ward, I'm assuming as a backup to Kasper Schmeichel. You know, the issue is they lost Riyad Mahrez. I mean, that we all knew that was probably going to happen. But they still got about $70 million for him, so if they can reinvest that 70 into maybe bringing in a couple more players, maybe to help on the defensive end, I do think that they can challenge for Europe again this year. I mean, they also still have Maguire back there, who they look like are going to price him out of a move to United, with him being $85 million. They still do have Kelechi Iheanacho, who still has yet to shine in the Premier League, but I do think with a playmaker like James Maddison behind him, he can provide the chances for him, and with Vardy getting older, they really need the youngsters to step up, like Damari Gray, Iheanacho. If they keep Musa, he needs to step up, because, I mean, Vardy's 32. He's not going to be able to keep up this pace for much longer. In 7th place, I have West Ham, who I believe might have had the best transfer window of any club in England or possibly Europe this year. So West Ham signed Ryan Fredericks, one of the best right backs in the Championship, on a free. They signed Issa Diop to basically replace James Collins, which is a great upgrade. They've also signed Lucas Fabianski, who is a huge upgrade from Joe Hart. They've signed Jack Wilshere on a free, who will provide creativity in the midfield. They've signed Yarmolenko from Dortmund for about $17 million after Dortmund spent, $30 on him or something like that. And then they also signed Felipe Anderson, who will push the ball up the field either on the right or in the center. I think he can also play on the left too. But they added a lot of creativity. The only losses they lost were Patrice Evra and James Collins, who probably weren't going to play this year. They also switched managers from David Moyes to Pellegrini, so that's also a major upgrade. And with the signings they made and the squad that they already have, I believe that they can dominate teams in the bottom half, and I do think they can win around, or they will get about 60 points this year, which could put them in the running for top 6, but I don't think they're quite there yet. I do think they need kind of a standout striker. I don't think Andy Carroll or Mikel Antonio will do it, but if they can add that before the end of the window, I do think that they will be a top 6 team. At number 6, I have Tottenham. Basically, my thinking here was that they haven't signed anybody, and they also haven't lost anybody. But staying the same, the clubs above them have also gotten a lot better. And it looks like they may be losing Moussa Dembele, who is the rock of their midfield, and Toby Alderweireld, with no real replacements in sight. And the issue with that is they don't have a backup center back, it appears, for if Vertonghen or Davinson Sanchez get hurt. I mean, they do have that Argentinian guy, Foyth, I believe his name is. And they also have Cameron Carter-Vickers, but I don't think they're good enough to come in and do the job Davinson Sanchez and Jan Vertonghen would. I mean, they have depth along the wing backs, but they can't really come in and play center back. I mean, they kept Pochettino this year, which was really good, seeing as Real Madrid were sniffing around for him, and re-signing Kane, Eriksen, I think Son also signed an extension. Those are all good, but re-signing players isn't getting new players in that can help those players. So that's why I think they'll finish outside the top 4 this year. At number 5, I have Arsenal. Now, I think they also had a great window. They signed Lichtsteiner on a free. They signed Bernd Leno to replace Cech. They signed Socrates to fill that hole in the defense where, I mean, let's be honest, it was either probably going to be Callum Chambers, Rob Holding, Mertesacker left. And with Koscielny being out with a torn Achilles, I think Socrates is actually a great person to bring in, especially if they want somebody to mentor the other young Greek center back they brought in. And they also brought in Lucas Torore. I think that's how you say it. The young midfielder from Sampdoria. I think they've really revitalized their team this year. They lost Jack Wilshere and Santi Cazorla, but with Lucas Torore in there, I do believe he will do a job next to next to Xhaka, because he kind of needed containing because he's a very undisciplined player, which can be an issue at times. But I do believe that having another calm, supporting midfielder next to him will actually help him out a lot. And I do think Unai Emery can probably bring them to top 4, but I don't think it'll be this year. I think they need to settle in with him and his tactics and the new signings. And then next year, I think they could probably go pretty high in the Premier League. At number 4, I have Manchester United because they added Diego Dalot, who was already hurt, and they added Fred, who has not impressed me. And from what I've heard, Matic will be out for the start of the season he's getting surgery on his abdomen. I mean, all the best to him. Mourinho also spent a lot of time shortlisting center backs, or he had a scout team go and shortlist him about 15 center backs. They came back and he didn't like any of them. So it looks like they're still going to be stuck with Phil Jones and Chris Smalling back there because he won't play his best center back, Eric Bailly. Which means basically their defense is going to be relying on David De Gea because with Dalot being out, looks like they're going to have to play, a 36-year-old, 37-year-old Antonio Valencia out there. And Ashley Young on the other side, which I don't think will be good enough for them. I do see Arsenal beating them, but I do think Mourinho somehow just pulls it out and will put 17 people behind the ball, so that's why I've picked Manchester United to finish 4th. At number 3, I have picked Chelsea. With new boss Maurizio Sarri, formerly of Napoli, they finished 2nd last year to Juventus with 91 points. 91 points in pretty much any other league would have won you the league. Actually, except the Premier League, because City just had a mad thing. He prefers a 4-3-3 over Conte's 3-5-2, which I think will actually be better for Chelsea now, especially with the addition of Jorginho, because he provides support for Conte, which frees up another midfielder to push forward. Now, I don't know who that midfielder will be, but I'm trying to think, Drinkwater's not going to do it. Ross Barkley probably won't do it. So if they can bring in another... Cesc Fabregas. That frees up Cesc Fabregas to go forward. And in his 148 games in charge of Napoli, he averaged 2.16 points per game with a record of 98, 25, and 25. So this guy does not lose games. And if they keep Hazard, Courtois, and Willian, I do see them finishing better than 3rd place, because for some odd reason, whenever a new Chelsea boss comes in, they win the league that year. So I think Sarri will get them back into Champions League, but I don't think it'll quite be enough for them to win the league. At number 2, I have Liverpool. I don't think they are quite at the level that City's at yet. They added Alisson, Shaqiri, Fabinho, and Keita, which I believe is the best transfer window of the top 6 teams. They added 4 players that would get into the first team of every other team in the Premier League, probably except City. They lost Emre Can on a free, which we probably could have got around $35 million for him. We lost Danny Ward, who I think is selling him for $12.5 million. That's a bargain for us. I don't know who would pay $12.5 million for our 3rd string goalie. And also, I've seen rumors that we might be getting rid of Mignolet, which I think would be probably the best for him. And one key thing this year for Liverpool is we didn't lose anybody from our any of our top players, which seems to happen a lot. We kept our top three, including Mo Salah, which thank God for that. And we also created the most chances per 90 with 12.6, and adding Keita to that, I believe we can up that to 14. And we also won the most tackles with 11.5 per 90, and adding Fabinho to that will definitely raise that. So with the new attacking support we've got and the new defensive support we've got, plus the new goalie, I believe Liverpool can challenge for the title this year. And at number 1, we have City. Surprise, surprise. They added Riyad Mahrez and a youngster, Claudio Gomez, from PSG. And the only loss they really had was Yaya Toure, who didn't play anyway, so I guess that doesn't really matter, does it? Key stats last year: most ever goals, most ever points, most wins, most home wins probably, most away wins. They did it all last year. They had the most forward passes by over 2,500. They created the most chances. They had the best shot accuracy. They averaged the most shots and kept the most clean sheets and only conceded 27 goals last year after scoring. Did they score over 100 last year? I think they did. But I don't see any team really stopping City this year again. I mean, Pep seems to be in his prime now as a manager. Actually, that's a lie. He was in his prime at Barcelona. But, I mean, adding a $70 million backup in Riyad Mahrez, I don't see him breaking into that first team. I mean, you already have Sterling, Gabriel Jesus, and Sané and Aguero. Like, where is he going to break into that? Plus Bernardo Silva, unless they're going to play him at center mid, which, I mean, they already have De Bruyne, Gundogan. Oh, they had another one too. I mean, Fabian Delph's there as well. And they're not going to play him right back because that's where Kyle Walker is. They pretty much have the best squad, I think, in the Premier League that can lead them to multiple titles in a row. If they win again this year, I think they will win it for the next year after that too. But if they don't win it this year, I think it might be a slippery slope for them, because then the board will start questioning themselves, being like, oh, we spent all this money again and we didn't win, so what do we do now? But I do think City will easily wrap up the league again this year, maybe having a little more of a challenge than 20-point difference, but I mean, they'll win it again. So that was my Premier League predictions. If you did enjoy it, please leave a like and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.